What's up, squad? Thank you so much for stopping by to check out another video here on the channel. As always, I appreciate your guys' love and support. And as always, guys, you know the drill. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get alerted to all the new content drops here on the channel. And squad, the road to 1K is underway. I think we just cleared 675 at the time of recording. So we are steadily on that road to 1,000 subscribers, guys. So if you haven't yet, make sure you let your people know. Come by, check out the channel. Make sure they subscribe. Leave some comments. Leave the likes. Help the algorithm, guys. But as always, I appreciate your love and support. This episode of Sports Cards 101, we are going to be diving into card grading. I was bopping around social media a little bit the other day, and I just saw GemRate had released stats about recent card grading trends. They're a company that carries statistics across the major 4 companies, and it was released that 1.8 million cards got graded in the month of August. That's the most cards ever graded in a month that since GemRate has kept these stats. So as we continue to see the rate of cards being graded continue to rise here according to these latest stats from GemRate, I figured we'd all get on the same page here about what we should be doing when we're submitting our cards. The companies to look for, what the card grading process is, what to look for in your cards when you're thinking of submitting some cards, the submission process, among other things. So sit back, gang, and let's jump into card grading. So the first question you guys should basically ask yourself when you're thinking about grading cards is, why are you grading your cards? The 2 main reasons you should be grading your cards is either to increase the card's value and potentially sell that card for more, or to add a card to your PC and maybe protect that card a little bit more and give it that final grade before you put it into your personal collection. Now, when cards are graded, guys, they are graded on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being, of course, the lowest score a card can receive, 10 being the highest score a card can receive. Now, the scores will vary across the different companies. PSA, who we'll go into a little bit more, they grade their cards on just a solid number, so it's either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on up to 10. There's other companies like SGC and Beckett who will grade their cards at 0.5s as well, so you can get a 7.5, 8.5, 9.5, etc. Now, to come up with your card's grade, that 1 to 10 scale, the cards are graded across 4 different categories. Now, these 4 categories include the centering, the card's corners, the card's edging, as well as the card's surface. And this includes both the front and back of the card. Now, certain companies that you submit to, they will show you these grades on the card when you submit. So Beckett here, this card is an Andrew McCutcheon. You can see it's graded a 9, but then the 4 different subcategories are here. So you can see it got a centering of a, let's see if we can see it, 9.5 on the centering. The edges got a 9.5, the corners got a 9.5, and the surface got an 8.5. So you figured the median of all those 4 numbers came to the score of a mint 9 here on this Andrew McCutcheon. Now, squad, once you've decided which cards you're thinking of submitting for grading, you want to take some time to review those cards yourself and make sure there aren't any imperfections or any issues with the card that might affect its grade. Now, during this process, which we'll show in a minute here, you definitely want to be using a bright light of some sorts or a magnifying glass just to help your eye, make sure you're not missing anything. And of course, guys, you want to be a harsh critic. You want to hunt for imperfections. Don't assume your card is perfect. I've pulled plenty of cards out of a pack that have issues with them. So don't just think that because you pulled it out of a pack, it's going to be a 10. I'm going to submit it straight away. Take that time, review your card, make sure there aren't any issues, because you are going to be spending money to get your card graded. So you don't want to send a card in that's going to get a low grade and you'll be disappointed in that grade and think you wasted your money just because you didn't take the time to review the card yourself. Now let's take a quick look at how you should review your cards when you're thinking of submitting them for grading. All right, squad. So say we wanted to get this Topps Chrome soccer card graded. It's a rookie card of Niels Kwanku, I believe is how you say that. So let's kind of go over the process that, before prepping it or anything, you should always just review the card to make sure it's worth grading. So here we're going to first look at the corners. So this corner,
kind of has a little tilt to it. If you see that, it kind of doesn't come out. You look at this corner, it's nice and sharp along with this corner, and that corner looks good. But again, if you look, this corner, it might not be a big deal, but you see how it kind of flares out a little bit there. So that's something to note with this card. Big things to look for. Again, I pulled this Novelli Marte rookie card out of a Topps pack, and look at the corner there. So that's always a good way to tell too, is look at that. It might look good at the start, but then you kind of give it a little angle twist to it. Oh, there's a big bend to it, and then you can kind of see when you look at it, look at the light refract off that corner a little bit there. So that's a good way to tell as well. So might have a little issue with the corner down here. Now let's get to the centering. So centering is always going to be left to right, top to bottom. So you see what's convenient with Topps Chrome is the bordering is there on the card. So you see it looks pretty good left to right. Both this side and this side have about the same thickness in the border. And the top pretty much matches the side. So you can say this one, pretty good centering. Look at the back as well. Now back isn't graded as harsh as the front of the card. So looks good. Typically, most companies, when it comes to centering, will give, between a 60-40 grace. So one side can be a little heavy versus thinner on the other side. Prism's one of the companies that's notorious for having, off-center cards or OC cards. You can see with this Richie Grant here. Look at this side's a lot thicker than this side. So you can tell with the bordering at the, don't need too much of a trained eye to see just the difference there in the centering on the cards.
All right, gang, quick note from the editing chair in regards to centering that I forgot to mention in the video. There are centering tools available that you can purchase that can help you determine this ratio on your card that I talked about, the 60-40. I'll put an example here in the video. You can find them on Amazon, and I'm sure your local card store sells them as well. So if you are having a tough time seeing the ratio on your card in regard to centering, pick up one of these centering tools and they'll help you determine that centering number for you so you know whether to submit that card or not. But let's get back to the video.
Now looking at the edges, you're going to, see here, see if there's anything too much. You see a couple little ripples there on the edge. Chrome kind of just is typical for having that kind of stuff. It's not too heavily graded. It's more like if you have a big flare up. Again, this corner, let's give it a little side check. Still looks okay from this side, but it just is a little wonky where how it tilts out there. A little edging, maybe give it a little swipe-a-roo. Kind of brought it down a little bit, so that might have just been a little edging, a little extra paper. Sometimes that happens. You can see kind of it flaring out now a little bit on the card. So again, a little bit of prep can help make the card look a little bit better. So now look at that corner. Not as flared. So again, just kind of looking at the edges, making sure there's no big issues with those. And then lastly, gang, it's going to be the surface of the card. Especially with these chrome cards, they're notorious for having like dimples on them or some scratches. This one looks pretty clean. You can also see like print lines on cards as well, as typical. Looking good. And then guys, of course, when you're doing this, you want to use a light, magnifying glass, anything that can, help just your normal eye. So surface looks good on this one. Example of a surface issue, we can go back to this Richie Grant. Prism, again, notorious for having dimples on the cards, but look at this bad boy, has a giant, it's like, oh, is that dog hair or something? Nope, just a giant scratch on the card. So that's obviously notable, will be deducted if I was happen to ever send this random Richie Grant base card to be graded, which would never happen, but just a sample of what some surface damage might look like when you're looking for cards. So now when you're prepping your card, it's always good to have like a mat like this. If you see some spots or anything, have a lint roller or something on hand just to get rid of any debris. You don't want anything to get on the card potentially that could affect a grade, or aka the value you're hoping to attain. So just give it one of those real quick. The light's probably going to show more than is actually there, but pretty clean surface for us here. All right, so if this was the card we were going to submit for grading, key thing to have have a microfiber cloth, guys. You know, these are like eyeglass cloths, whatever they are. You can order a bunch off Amazon. So typically you'll have your card down, and then I'll grab a clean card sleeve, just a penny sleeve here. And I'll use that on top of the card just so I'm not leaving any fingerprints on it or anything like that. And then we'll just give it, I go a circular motion to start, just on the base here. And then I'll start going straight out just to get any debris off the card. And then do the same pattern and style for the bottom. You know, not a hard process, but I want to make sure. It's always going to take the time, clean the card. And then, of course, you want to be grabbing from the edges, and then you'll give it one last look over now that you have cleaned the card. Make sure there's nothing that you missed that might be big time there. And then you'll get a clean penny sleeve, not the one you use to cover the card. Slide it back into the penny sleeve. And now, guys, once your card is clean, the next thing you'll need is a card saver. It's not your typical top load or anything like that. These are the semi-rigids that you'll use to send to whatever company you're using to grade. This just makes it easy for them to pull the card out, and then they can dispose of them afterwards. So typically they are a little tricky to get the hand of. You want to hear kind of that little opening at the bottom, that pop there. Get it open, and then you want to just slide your card in there as best you can. I kind of try to, once I get it in, I'll open it and just slowly get it down and in there. And boom, your card's in the card saver. I do personally try to get it as centered in the card saver as I can, because I feel like, hey, if you have a good presentation for your card, you obviously care for it, might have a better chance to get a better grade now that it's kind of centered up in the sleeve. So you'll do that for each of your cards. Get your stack of however many cards you're going to be submitting in all your card savers, and then you'll start the submission process on the website.
Now, once your cards are prepped, or you've got the card store or company you're going to go through to submit your cards or prep them, you want to definitely choose which company you're going to be going with for grading. Now, card grading has, of course, exploded the last few years. There are hundreds of different companies that will grade cards for you. Some are reputable, some aren't. But the main four that you should think about grading with if you are going to grade your card are going to be PSA, CGC, Beckett, and SGC. Now, if you're grading cards just to flip them, I would recommend going through PSA. They're typically the company that has the highest resale value for cards that are graded through that company. I'll put up a couple comparisons here where you can see the same card that got a PSA 10 versus an SGC 10. You can see the price differences there. So if you are planning on flipping, PSA is definitely the recommended company to go through. Of course, they are the biggest grading company, so it is more expensive, and they have longer wait times depending on what service you go through to grade your cards. But again, if you are grading to flip, I recommend going through PSA. Now, of course, if you are flipping, there are some other things to look into. Some companies do have grading specials. So right now, SGC is doing a Topps Chrome special. So you can see they're going to grade any sport, any year of Topps Chrome. They'll get it graded for you at a discount. So some of those companies, just because they aren't the titan that PSA is, they'll offer these grading specials. SGC is still a reputable company, number 2 or 3 in the market, and you can get these cards graded for cheap through them. But again, you'll see the resale value of the SGC versus the PSA isn't there. But again, if you're saving money on the grade, then it's definitely pros and cons to weigh when you're thinking about flipping the card. And the other thing with flipping graded cards to think about is cross grading. So, you'll maybe find the cards that are SGC 9.5s. You can then submit those cards to PSA and try to get that PSA 10. So that's the thing to think about as well as flipping. So say you take advantage of a special through SGC, you get that 9.5, you think, I'd love to get this in a 10. You can then maybe submit through PSA, try to get that 10 knowing that you have that 9.5. It's not a guarantee, but it is something that you see in the hobby a lot, is that cross grading, and it is a service that companies do offer where you can just submit your card directly from one company to another. They'll regrade it, reslab it for you. So that's another thing to think about when you're going to be flipping these graded cards. Now, if you're grading for your PC, there's definitely a lot of different factors to consider because this is your collection, so it's what you care about. So personally, I like to have a lot of PSA slabs in my own personal collection for graded cards, but I'm not going to be turned away against other smaller companies because they do offer a lot of cool different alternatives for your slabs. Now, I'd say one of the big benefits if you are going to go with smaller companies for your own personal collection graded cards is taking advantage of the discounted rates. A lot of these smaller companies will have lower prices, or they'll offer an introductory discount where, your first 5 cards are $10 a card, and then maybe their regular rate is $15 after that. But they give you that kind of low rate just to get you in. You can see the cards. If you like it, you can come back for more. So another thing that's cool, I think, with the smaller companies is they kind of get creative with their labels. They don't just have the generic information or the plates that like SGC or PSA use. Instead, they have like creative flow labels. I know there's a company, TGA, here up in New England. They specialize in Pokemon grading. So, if you grade like a fire card, they'll include fire art into the label. Or if it's like a full art Pokemon card, they'll try to carry that art up into the label. I'll put some examples here in the video. But so stuff like that is cool with the smaller companies. So again, if you're looking to get a discount graded card with maybe some cool creativity to it, definitely look into these smaller companies because like I said, guys, there's so many across the gamut. And if you're not looking to resell and don't really care who grades it and you're looking for just some way to have a cool graded card in your collection, definitely look into the smaller companies. Now, when you go to submit your cards, it depends on how you can do it. Of course, a lot of these companies are at bigger card shows. So if you are attending some of these bigger card shows, you can just submit your cards in person. They'll go over the process with you. At some of the smaller card shows, you'll see those card stores that do the submissions. So personally, I grade with the guys at Card Vault. I submit through them just to make it easy, simple. They've done it, it's just clockwork for them. Cards come back great condition. I've had no issues with the guys there. So, once you find that comfortable resource that you have for this, I definitely recommend going that way. Now, if you choose to do it yourself, totally fine option. A lot of these companies have their submission process through their websites or even apps. I know PSA you can pretty much submit through an app, but you just got to make sure you know what you're submitting, the different options that there are, the wait times, the costs. So make sure you know all that information. So let's kind of quickly dive into maybe what it would look like to go through PSA right now.
All right, squad. So you can see here we are on the PSA website. So before I talked about, the different services and options, so we'll go there first. So of course, here's kind of the pricing. So a key thing to note is Collectors Club only. So that's a PSA kind of Collectors Club. So it's a paid membership. So if you're a paid member, you can get a discount on trading cards. So Pokemon, stuff like that. They're doing a deal right now. And also Value Bulk. They're doing at $19 a card. So typically like card stores, bigger companies, they'll be Collectors Club and they'll use that membership and have other people submit through them and maybe get like, a few dollars on a card just with the difference in the price. But for non-Collectors Club, you can see that for PSA value, it's $25 a card. And that means that the declared value here means the card can only be $500 or less. So if you think you have like a big card worth a few thousand and you submit it through this, they will shoot you back an email and ask for you to pay more just because the declared value of the card exceeded that $500 card or $500 limit. And then you can see the estimated turnaround time. Another key thing to look at here is 45 business days. So you'll see as this price goes up, you'll see that number go down. So if you need a card, you pull a big card and you want to get it turned around at a quicker rate, you can see here Value Plus, expedited turnaround, emphasize here with PSA on this one, $40 a card. Again, that $500 declared value, but you can see the estimated turnaround time here is just 20 business days. And then regular is $75 a card. You see they boosted that declared value up to $1,500 or less, and that'll be a 10 business day turnaround. And then Express is for those big boy cards. You start getting those, you get the $2,500 on the declared value and $5 turnaround, or 5-day turnaround there.
So as someone capitalizing, especially on quick events like Olympics, someone having a really big playoff run, something like that, and you want to try to capitalize on a card you have that you want to flip, you do the Express and get the 5-day turnaround. And then here, Super Express. So this is for cards that are more valuable than that 2,500. You're looking at 5,000 or less. And then same thing here. So nothing's going to be quicker than the 5-day turnaround for PSA. It's just all depending on the value of the card. And you'll see, like I said, if you submit it for $25 and they find out, the card's going to be exceeding 10 grand, you're going to have to pay that difference in the rate on the card. Now, the pricing tiers will be similar across different, companies. So if we go over to SGC now and look at some of their, card grading, we'll go here. You can see they go into their prices. So here it's more of, just a chart rather than clicking on it. PSA, you can click and get started. But here you can see they do it based on that declared value of the card. And then, their quicker turnaround is one of the things with SGC. So we talked about the difference in choosing companies. If you do need your card quicker and aren't worried really about the difference in the pricing that you could sell it for PSA versus SGC, then, SGC might be your option because you can see you get a 5 to 10 day, which is their standard. So, eBay, you were paying upwards of a couple $100 to get a card back in 5 days, where SGC, that's kind of their 5 to 10 days, their standard, where immediate is looking at 1 to 2 day turnaround. And then you can see, like I said, they're all based on the declared value. So anything less than $1,500, it's going to cost $15 to grade, $40 if you want it quicker than the 5 to 10 days. And then anything between $3,500 and $1,500 is going to be $85. So you can see like $15 versus $25. So you're saving $10 per card going through SGC just compared to PSA. But like I said, so say you're a flipper and you want to go through PSA, you want to do the value, $25 a card. Now, typically there is, if you go through a card company or a card store, a lot of them have a limit you have to submit. So sometimes it's $25 a card, but you have to submit up to, 5 cards or whatever it may be. So keep an eye out for that as well. But so like I said, so most of this will go online. So they'll move you over here to the submission center and you'll start by building your submission. All right, so once you get logged in, you'll be at the online submission center for PSA and you'll see any prior submissions you might have. But if you're ready to submit, you'll hit new submission. And this will go over the different types of items that you can submit to PSA. Of course, there's trading cards, oversized cards, coins and pins, packs that might be unopened, vintage stuff like that, tickets, Funko Pops, the whole gamut of things. But of course, we're a sports card channel, so let's go into the trading cards. And now here are the different types of submission that you can do through PSA. So you do basic grading for your card. They also offer autograph grading with your card. So that's kind of a dual service. We'll go into that in a second. They'll do a review service where if you've had a card previously graded by PSA, they'll review it again and see if it deems a higher grade than it got originally. They have the crossover grading, which we talked about, where you can submit the cards from another company to PSA to have them regraded and reholdered in a PSA slab. And then lastly, they offer a reholder service where if you have an older, out-of-date PSA slab and you want to get it updated, you can resubmit it with them and they'll update it for you. But for this video, of course, let's just hop into basic grading of your raw cards. So now here's the different tables. We saw it earlier, but here's kind of the layout that SGC has. So they'll go through, you'll either do your value submission here, either 79 or older or 80 to present. Value Plus, which of course offers the quicker turnaround, but is a little bit more pricey. The regular here with it, again, quicker turnaround, higher price. So you see as the price goes up, that quicker turnaround. But as you see here, you start to see notes with greater notes. So we talked about the subcategories earlier in the video. PSA doesn't put them on their slabs, but they do offer greater notes. So if that's something that you want to have with your submission, they'll give you basically a little diagram of your card and show you any of the imperfections that they found and lay it out for you on how they got that score. So they might not have subcategories with PSA, but they do include it with their greater notes. But for this video, let's hop into do value submission. And of course, if you need to know more about the declared value, they put that here again. that's the amount that you can claim as compensation if your card is lost or damaged in transit or anything happens during the encapsulation process. So once you click value or whatever submission level you're going to do, you'll get this window here. So this is where you'll need to know the year and brand of your card. So we'll just kind of go through again and just show you how that's done. So let's say we're going to submit some cards from my heyday. How about the little Topps Chrome Randy Moss from 98? And of course, whenever you put it in, if you're don't know too specific, you'll get a list of this and they show you what the card looks like so you can try to match it up. And then we have one of those, declared value 500. We'll save that. And how about a little 1998 Topps Chrome Paul Pierce? You'll see that. Him throwing down the slam. Throw that in here. Add that. And then again, so you'll go through, you'll build your list of the cards that you're going to submit. Now, one thing you want to keep an eye of is whatever order you put them in on this list is the order they should be in your stack as well. Just helps things out for PSA. I know they appreciate that. So you'll go through, put your whole list together here, and then you'll proceed to checkout. And now at checkout, this will go over the shipping and billing. So they do offer, you can pay for prepaid labels. So they generate the label for you. You can print it out at home, slap it on your box. You don't have to worry about any miscommunication or any errors in the labeling process. Or you can bring it to your own mailing provider and write out your own label, pay for it. I would recommend doing the prepaid label just so you get the discounted rate, plus you avoid any issues. And then lastly, after your card is graded, they do offer now a PSA vault where they'll hold your card. You can sell it through eBay, and then they'll deal strictly between eBay and PSA and getting the card sent out. That's a new service they have. I've never utilized it, but it's something to look into if you're gonna, I guess, have lots and lots of slabs. So once that's done, you'll enter all your information, shipping, payment method, bada bing, bada boom, and then you'll hit review order, and that's when you'll see your shipping order. And again, you're gonna have those cards in the order that they are on the list before you ship, and you'll pay, and that'll be that. And then one last thing we'll go through kind of as quickly as the auto submission, if you happen to do one of those. So again, if you have a card that's autographed, click this little dual auto slider here, and it'll give you a few options. And you'll see the label here will adjust so you can kind of see the type of label you want. So the first option is to get the card and the auto grade. So you see here the big 9 for the card, and the auto 9 is the grade autograph. Now if you do autograph only, they're going to grade the auto here with a 9, and then they're going to mark the card as authentic, just saying, hey, this is an authentic card. And then if you take the card grade only, it's the reverse, where they grade the card for you and then just mark the auto as authentic. You kind of see those typically, I think, most of the PSA slabs. Some people will grade the auto too, but so once you go to the dual, you see it goes from that $24.99 now to $34.99. So depending on how many you're going to submit, they'll adjust the rate for you. And then again, same thing here. But you just see that little difference in cost, and then making sure you choose the right type of label. And again, you're going to go through this process of putting in the card information, and then who signed the card, so it's a fee. Of course, that would exceed the declared value, but again, it's just a demonstration. So, star rookie, quantity 1, declared value 500. Signer window, where whoever signed the card, there's one signature, 2 drop down, you'd declare value, boom, and then you'd save it,
and then that gets added to the list. So you see signers, so they know who to make sure the authentic is auto for, or the auto is authenticated for. But that's just a quick step, guys, for you to see how the submission is online. Again, it'll be different across the different companies, but PSA is typically used, and it'll be a lot like that when you go across the other companies as well.
All right, squad, so that's a wrap for this episode of Sports Cards 101, where we took a look at card grading and the process. I hope you guys enjoyed all the information. If you do feel like I missed anything, or there's any other tips out there you want to give to fellow collectors in the hobby, make sure you guys are hitting the comments, smashing those likes, and making sure we're spreading awareness to everyone so they know what to look for when they're grading their cards, because apparently maybe we'll hit 2 million next month. All right, guys, you know the drill. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Make sure you get alerted to all the new content drops here on the channel. The road to 1,000 is going strong, and I'm so grateful for all your support, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying the content. Of course, if you haven't yet, make sure you give us a follow on Instagram as well. We got the TikTok going as well a little bit, so if you enjoy a little TikTok in your life, go check that out as well. But I'm going to get to editing, guys, and I'll catch you in the next